falconers have been tethering birds of prey just like this hawk is here for thousands of years, and it's considered to be the best practice for keeping that bird of prey in really good condition and the best for its welfare. Well, DEFRA are proposing this year, 2022, to ban all tethering of birds of prey at mobile displays like this one, at bird of prey centres, and most likely even falconers who have a hawk like this, or a falcon perhaps, in their back garden. So in this video, I'm going to explain three things. Firstly, why we tether birds of prey. Secondly, what DEFRA are proposing, what the ban involves. And thirdly, the impact it will have on falconers and the industry of display falconry and the knock-on effects as well. So let's start with why we tether birds of prey. So when it comes to raptors like the hawk here, there are various things to consider when it comes to the husbandry of the animal. It's really important to keep the bird in excellent condition. If it has really good feather condition, along with being really healthy and fit, it's going to be a really good flying bird. And that could be free flying for personal pleasure, for recreational reasons. It could be hunting with your bird of prey as a traditional falconry bird would be. Having the ability to tether it and then fly it free is the best way of keeping it in good condition, because if it's free lofted in an aviary, it's going to fly around the aviary, hit its feathers against the mesh, and it's going to break feathers and hurt itself. Far better to keep the bird in excellent condition by keeping it on a block or a bow perch and giving it lots of exercise and then resting again. The reality is that birds of prey actually sit and rest most of their time. It's the best way to survive. Even free lofted in an aviary, the bird will just sit there most of the day. It won't really fly about or move about. An aviary is like its bedroom. So there's not much of a difference it being free lofted to being on a perch from the bird of prey's point of view. It still has its water, it can access at any time of the day, and a tall perch like this is really good because it can jump up and down, so a little bit of exercise there if it wishes to. Good for fitness, but also is higher up and it can see further. Birds of prey do like to be higher up and they can have a little look around there. You've got the big owl on the floor there. She spends some of the time on the bow perch when we're here, and at the moment she's decided to sit on the floor there and relax in the evening sunshine. That leads me on to the second reason for tethering a bird of prey. It means you can offer it the sunshine, for example. You can put it on a perch into the sun, as long as it's not too hot, of course. That vitamin D, really important for its health, with a bath of water. A lot of falconers will fly their bird, give it a really good fitness session, place it on a block perch or a bow perch with some water and some more food. It will sit that, it'll rest, enjoy some sunshine, and then be moved into a mews or an aviary or a shelter later on, whether it's free lofted or tethered. So there are lots of different reasons for tethering the bird, for keeping them healthy and in good condition. It's also useful to be able to tether them at displays like this. We do lots of events, static displays at country fairs and summer shows, galas, that kind of thing. Lots of them throughout the summer season. And we can't exactly go and build an aviary and put them in them aviary and take the aviaries away again each day, can we? The second thing I want to discuss then is exactly what this ban is proposing. Now, if you look at this document here provided by Raptor Awards, they have described exactly what the changes mean. It means no more tethering of birds of prey, including on public display, no more than an hour at any event without being in suitable accommodation, which means an aviary they're free lofted in. But then if you can't tether them at all, then you can't even have them at an event for an hour, in that fact. They're not allowed to be in a box overnight. That's the travel box that we use for them. And they also have to be unable to see birds of prey flying if you're doing a flying display somewhere. Now, the first point is the most crucial one, unable to tether them at all. In a box overnight, some falconers will take something like a Harris hawk, an American desert bird effectively, and if it's a frosty night, they might pop it in a box overnight to keep it from getting that frostbite that they are prone to if they get damp and they're very, very cold. And you'd be surprised how much the birds rather like their boxes. My owls actually have nest boxes in their aviaries. My barn owl, for example, spends probably half its time in that aviary, which is most of its life. It spends most of its life in the aviary, actually in that box. In the box, it can't spread its wings out. It's quite happy in that box. I have birds that will jump straight into their boxes. Most of my birds, when we travel somewhere and open up the box, there they are, sat on the perch inside looking at me as if to say, what do you want? They're quite happy inside the box, as long as, of course, they're not in there for many days at a time. They're going to be coming out and expressing the ability to show natural behaviour when they're flying free. So that all leads me on to the third point. What effect is this going to have? Well, in theory then, unless we can find a way around it, and it does depend on the wording of this if it does pass. And with DEFRA, when they announce these things and say we're going to consult about it, they generally have made their mind up. So we're hoping it doesn't happen, or we're hoping it won't be extreme. Like if they say, for example, you are allowed to tether them on display for a number of hours per day, maybe up to 8 hours, for example, maximum, but they otherwise have to be in an aviary, well, we can maybe manage that and get around it. I mean, my hawk here is going to be absolutely fine free-lofted. I'm thinking of changing his aviary shortly into a proper free-lofted aviary as opposed to a tethering muse. My falcon? Not quite so sure. Even if you build them a padded cell aviary, there's still a good chance they're going to damage themselves. Just imagine the inspection we get when the inspector comes around and they say, oh, that bird is in very good condition. Yes, that's because you forced me to free-loft it for its own welfare. Can you see how it doesn't really make sense? As falconers, we know how to best look after our birds. The reason it's come about is because there have been people in the past who maybe have over-tethered their bird, have it tethered for too long and not flown it free enough. It's been stories put out by the left-winged propaganda of PETA and similar charities who will claim the birds are unhealthy because they are tethered, that it's that tether and torment and that kind of thing, which just isn't true. It's an extreme view that they have put out there to kind of put this agenda across, and it's just not true at all. So when it comes to this particular new bill, should we call it, this new ban, it will actually result in most companies like mine being forced to close down. Or we might be able to do some business, but nothing like the amount of work we do now, which we need to do to pay for all the costs, feed the birds, pay for the insurance, pay for the equipment, keep everything in good condition, and pay for fuel, and of course at the end hope to actually have enough money left to feed the family and pay the rent or the mortgage. So many centres will maybe adapt and be okay, but some will be forced to close perhaps. And what certainly will happen as a result are lots of different birds are now going to need a home. Where are we going to put all these hundreds, no, thousands of birds of prey if there's nowhere to keep them anymore and no one wants to have them? Because if there isn't a need for them because we haven't got the business, where are they going to go? They can't be released into the wild. That's illegal. They're captive birds of prey. It's morally wrong as well. Most of the birds wouldn't know how to survive. Okay, the hawk would. He'd survive, he's intelligent, he's aggressive enough, he'd catch pigeon and other prey, he'd be okay. But he's an American bird of prey, I can't just go releasing an American species into the wild. So there is that question of what will happen to the birds. Big problem there. But there are other problems as well this will cause for falconers who hunt with their birds of prey, for people who fly their birds of prey and want to have that ability to tether them for their own sake. And there's a knock-on effect with other attractions that aren't going to be able to have these birds of prey go and be a part of the attraction. You know, part of the museum gardens here in York is this bird of prey display we offer, and it supplies a really good attraction to the museum's trust. It's also going to affect the volunteers who work for the other members of staff. It's going to affect the people who make the equipment, the tethering equipment, for example, and the jesses and the leather that they supply, and the tools. It's going to have that knock-on effect. And I don't think that people, maybe who are making these decisions, are quite aware of actually the impact this will have on the industry of display falconry. Now, the good news, if anything, is that if it does pass, there will be a transition period of potentially up to 5 years. So if the ban came to effect, let's say, beginning of next year, for example, I would have the opportunity to continue working as we do whilst we think about and prepare and plan what we're going to do next. So it's not as if we're going to have to suddenly stop work. We had that problem with the lockdowns, of course. But it's worrying times, this left-winged agenda, it seems to be. It's kind of the cancel culture. The people who want them tethered don't understand why we tether them. They don't stop to listen, largely. They don't stop to think. They just see a bird tethered and they have that expression of, oh, free as a bird, it shouldn't be tethered. And I welcome your comments on this. If you're watching this video as one of these people who thinks it should be banned, please comment with why you think it should be banned after I've explained what I've just explained. There are other videos out there. It's worth watching. Dave Sharp, Nature Boy, he's done a similar video on this, explaining things. He's probably explained it a lot better than me, actually. Worth a watch. In fact, I'll put a link in the description to his video. You can also watch that one there. It's also worth saying that a bird of prey is only interested in surviving. All it wants to do is eat. It just wants to be fed. And whether that's because it has to hunt, or whether that's to fly for its food to a person, it doesn't matter. That's all it wants to do. The rest of the time it wants to sit and rest. Now, some birds, in all honesty, a bit like Henrietta over there, the European eagle owl, she's 20 years old. We fly her free on a regular basis. She lives in an aviary. She's free-lofted in that, but we tether her probably 3 or 4 days a week in a busy week of the year on a display like this for 6 or 7 hours, say, and she's quite happy sitting there. In fact, she's the sort of bird of prey that would happily live on a perch all her life if she was getting a good meal at the beginning of the day. She'd think, this is great. I've been well fed. I don't have to worry about flying and burning energy and reserving energy and getting tired and potentially getting injured as I fly. I mean, when we fly, they don't get injured because we're careful about how we do it. But in the wild, there are more dangers, and they could, and that instinct's still there. So it isn't like the birds are sat on the perch and thinking, please, I want to be free. He's just sat looking around, quite happy, bit of evening sunshine. We understand the birds of prey more than anybody else who isn't a falconer or anyone who works at birds of prey who comes up to the display like this and says, oh, that's wrong, it should be banned. You've got people out there who think this should be banned, but they have dogs on leads. And let's just go for that quick comparison. If you have a dog that lives in your house, it's like its bedroom or whatever, you take it out on a lead and you let it run around free. Our birds live in enclosures. They are a bit like bedrooms to them. We take them out on a lead, we fly them free. In basic principle, it's the same. I know dogs are not birds, I know it's different in many ways, but that basic principle of how we manage correctly the animals we're looking after is the same. As falconers, we don't tether them because we want to be cheeky and a bit cruel and, forceful and you do as I want, you sit there. We do it because we know it's the best way of them to keep in good condition. I wouldn't run bird of prey displays if I didn't think it was a good idea to have birds tethered. It's worrying times. What else are they going to cancel? Are they going to stop people taking reptiles out to events, for example, like we also offer? Are they going to stop horse racing? I mean, where does it end? Will it be something that's completely outlawed, or will it be something that they set as a vague guidance that no one ever really follows and it isn't policed and no one knows what they're doing? I don't know what to say, really. It's a worrying time and it's a sad thing if this is what's going to happen, because it could be the end of bird of prey displays entirely. So I have to say, believe me when I say we know as falconers what we're doing with this practice of tethering the birds. Not chaining them up, not tying them down. Yeah, that's the wording that some of these people with this agenda have. I've been accused of chaining my birds up. I had the inspectors actually ring me last year to say, I've had a complaint. We have to follow every complaint up. Apparently you have your bird chained up in the hot sun. No, it was tethered correctly with the right type of equipment in nice bit of sunshine where it's going to get that vitamin D that it needs for its health. Can you see how people can take the truth and twist it to fit their own agenda? Keep an eye on the channel because I will update you on what's going on. I'll probably do a video announcing the decision that's been made. We believe we'll find out later this summer. I don't know what to say, really. It's a worrying time and it's a sad thing if this is what's going to happen, because it could be the end of bird of prey displays entirely.